Hey, friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome to Volume 2 of Wrestling What Ifs. Larson, you and I are big fans of the concept of what would have happened, of the Elseworlds, of, Marvel. They had that. Wasn't that just called What If?
It was called What If, yeah.
Yeah, it was always like really cool covers. It was like, what if Spider-Man was an X-Man? And then like the insides were always really bad and the art sucked.
Yeah, but the covers were outstanding.
Covers were always really cool. And so a couple months ago, we did Wrestling What Ifs, where we reached out to y'all to let us know what you. Wait, no, we got this off of Twitter, I think. Was it off Twitter? No,
I believe
it wasn't. It was on our community thread. That's what it was.
Very well, community tab. Yeah, that's right.
That's what it was. Just, yeah, go along.
What if we got it off Twitter, though?
What if we got it off Twitter? So we're reaching back down into that original community thread and the comments of that first video to bring you more What Ifs. Larson, do you have a juicy one to kick us off?
I do. This one is from Captain Booty Bandit.
Awesome name.
Says, what if Dr. Death ended up winning Brawl for All? How would he have been pushed? How far would he be pushed? Sorry. So, of course, you hear the stories about how he was brought in to feud with Stone Cold because Dr. Death, Steve Williams, was a huge international star.
He was big, tough dude, grizzly, looked like he would dole
player,
out real pain to people. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, legit reputation for a tough guy.
Yeah, right.
As a tough guy. So
kind
they
of
brought him in to be the Brawl for All, a shoot fight tournament. To be with the idea that he would just show up and win.
Yeah,
and
right.
that would be the springboard for him to eventually feud with Stone Cold for the title.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it didn't happen because he didn't win Brawl for All.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
In fact, he had a pretty embarrassing performance in Brawl for All.
Yeah.
And he was hurt during his match, and that was kind of it.
He got injured during Brawl for All, and that's all we said from Dr. Death. So awesome name, great reputation coming in. When I remember watching during the time when Dr. Death came in. Yeah. I was not a tape trader, so I didn't know anything about this guy, Steve Williams. I don't know if clearly I think Vince probably would have tried with a push for him. I don't know if he would have necessarily connected with the crowd. When I think of him, I kind of think of Vader and how the Vader stuff really didn't work all that well. And I feel like during that time especially, I can draw a parallel with one other guy, Ken Shamrock. Mm-hmm. Legitimate, actual badass, super MMA guy, right? Amazing. But I feel like, and I know I think Pritchard has mentioned in the past that Shamrock had some backstage issues where they couldn't necessarily rely on him to give him that big push. But I also, kind of similar to Dan Severn.
Yeah.
Never really connected with me as a fan the way the personalities did of the other guys. Mankind, Austin, Triple H, Shawn Michaels. Those guys connected largely because of the personality.
Yep.
And I feel like the guys that were brought in as legitimate badasses, because the personality wasn't at the same level as those other guys, that they had a much harder time connecting with people. And I feel like Dr. Death would have been in that same mold.
Absolutely. I mean, the Attitude Era was defined by the personalities involved. If you were a legit badass, I guess maybe that's of some benefit. But if you're just a legit badass who can work a good match but don't have the personality, then there is a ceiling on how far you're going to be able to go in WWE at the time because you wouldn't be able to connect with the fans.
Yeah.
And you're right. Dr. Death, for as great a wrestler as he was, I don't recall necessarily him having that kind of personality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, it might have been a situation if he had won Brawl for All. Yes, he might have got a program with Stone Cold for a pay-per-view. Stone Cold would obviously have won that, and then Dr. Death would have been right back down to the mid-card. It would have toiled there for a while.
Yeah, it's like you think of another guy who was presented as a silent killer type, Steve Blackman, right? Yeah. We like Steve Blackman. He had a really cool theme, and he could do cool stuff with the glow sticks and everything. But personality-wise, eventually they put him with Al Snow. I will almost guarantee you that Dr. Death would have been doing comedy bits with Al Snow instead of wrecking fools and getting the Intercontinental Championship.
Exactly. Yeah.
Here's sort of a follow-up to that one. Caleb Shannon says, Here's one I never hear get asked. What if Bart Gunn actually knocked out Butterbean at WrestleMania? Now, between Bart Gunn and Billy Gunn was given a much bigger opportunity that worked out really well, obviously, with DX. And so he was able to showcase some of his personality. But if you remember, as soon as he went solo, that disappeared. I do kind of feel like Bart Gunn might have had a bit more natural charisma than Billy Gunn. Do you think it's possible he could have gone far if given a big push because of the Butterbean stuff?
I don't know. I feel like he was actually kind of punished for getting to the finals of Brawl for All and facing Butterbean. You know, like they didn't. That wasn't the plan.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You know, and they didn't expect him to win. Mm-hmm. And if somehow he had bested Butterbean at WrestleMania, you'd think they would have been smart to try to capitalize on it.
Yeah.
But I don't think they had much interest in pushing Bart Gunn.
Yeah.
As an upper mid card guy or a main event guy. So I don't know if it might have been something short lived, but at the end, if Vince didn't have any interest in doing it, he wouldn't have done it.
That's what it all boils down to. I think you're right about that. Like, he can watch some dude knock out Butterbean, but if Vince doesn't see it, like if he doesn't like see it in the guy, rather, not if he doesn't see the knockout. If he doesn't see it in the guy, it's not like that knockout would have been like, God damn it, let's push him to the moon.
Exactly.
You know. Let's see here. Here's a good one. I like this. Andre Knox says, what if WWE didn't drop the ball on Karrion Kross's initial debut and Keith Lee's main roster run? So I see this as two different situations completely.
Yeah.
I think Keith Lee could have been a super champion at this point. I think he could have been a legitimate, constant main eventer. I think he has all the tools. I think he still could be. I think if they nailed if Triple H had taken over before Keith Lee was debuted on main roster, he'd be a huge star.
Yeah.
I don't know that I can say the same thing about Karrion Kross because we have Karrion Kross in WWE right now, arguably a cooler version of Karrion Kross than he was back coming from NXT. And they still can't figure out what to do with him to make him a big deal. I think Karrion Kross would have ended up in the exact same situation he is now.
I'm just going to throw this out there just because it popped in my head. Not that I necessarily think it's the case. But what if with Kross, they have like really high hopes for him and have plans for him, but they kind of got him in a holding pattern until he's on SmackDown. And if he's going to get a major push, you kind of have to wait until Roman drops the title. And maybe it's a situation, and it's weird that they haven't done, you'd think there'd be stories they could tell with him where he's on TV regularly and getting wins. So that's why I don't think this is necessarily the case, but I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah.
They got ideas for him. They got plans for him. I mean, obviously Triple H likes him. Brought him in NXT, brought him back after he got released. Dude's a good promo. He's got presence. He's got charisma. If he's allowed to work his style, he could put on fun matches. So I don't know. It's interesting with Kross why even going into NXT where it's like, all right, now you got to work our style of wrestling. And it seemed kind of like an awkward fit at first. Even though he was pushed right to the top in NXT when he showed up there. Since then, I haven't really done much with him, whether Vince is in charge or Triple H. So I don't know, but you're right about Keith Lee. If Triple H was booking creative when Keith Lee was called up, he'd be one of the top guys. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nate Draws Things here says, what if the curtain call never happened?
Oh, yeah, we have that over here, too. Somebody asked about if Triple H, so William Smith here, 666, says, what if Triple H rose up the card winning the King of the Ring and had the curtain call not cut his knees out from under him? So this is one of those things that I feel is a bit of a misconception that he had some massive punishment. Like, people often point to the Warrior match as part of his punishment, but when that came before the curtain call. But
like the
obviously
thing that the punishment was he was supposed to win King of the Ring 96 and didn't.
Right. Yeah. And of course, King of the Ring 96 gave us Austin 316, which is a great moment. So here's my philosophy this is my thought on that. I think instead of Austin 316, we would have had some other hot selling, really cool Stone Cold Steve Austin shirt. Maybe it just would have said Stone Cold Said So or something like that. It'd been the same font, the Impact font, and would have sold 1 million shirts or maybe more, however many of those sold. Austin would have been Austin even without King of the Ring. I firmly believe that.
Yeah.
And I also believe that Triple H would have been absolutely nowhere until they put him with Shawn Michaels.
Yep.
And I think that would not have happened until until Vince McMahon and Vince Russo came up with the idea for the Attitude Era, and let's get these things being raunchy, and let's let Shawn Michaels run with his best friend, and they could be raunchy together. I don't think winning King of the Ring would have done anything for Triple H. The second he said "suck it," then I think he was off to the races.
Exactly, because the Hunter Hearst Helmsley character was so rooted in Vince's early mid-90s approach to wrestling.
Yeah.
That as times changed and WWE was adapting those changes, if he had been told, "Hey, you still got to be Hunter Hearst Helmsley," that would have gone nowhere. Nowhere.
Yeah.
When you have Stone Cold and The Rock and Mankind and imagine Shawn Michaels in DX but without Triple H, like Triple H would have got left behind.
Yeah.
Even if he'd won King of the Ring '96.
Yeah, I agree. Here's one. Doomguard Kino says, what if Ric Flair never returned to WCW back in 92? So I guess the idea is, what if Ric Flair stayed in WWF? I feel like by 97 he would have gone back anyway. Eventually he would have gone back because so much of his history was there.
Yeah.
I don't see him as an Attitude Era guy. That'd be weird.
No.
An old grandpa looking guy walking, roaming around.
I know. Yeah, I don't necessarily see that either. Although, he was there in the Ruthless Aggression era, and there was a lot of salacious stuff around then as well. So
yeah, but then he was sort of like the grandpa,
Yeah, he was.
he was hanging out with the younger guys.
Maybe this would have happened instead of Triple H joining up with Shawn Michaels to form DX. He would have been taken under Ric Flair's wing and sitting under his learning tree and storyline, and it would have been more or less evolution.
Oh, bro, you might be onto something there. That'd be kind of crazy if they did an Evolution before Evolution, but Ric Flair was in the Triple H role and Triple H was in the Batista role or the Orton role. Ooh, hey, who would be, okay, that's a good one. Who then would be the 1996 version of Evolution? Flair's Triple H is Orton, who's Batista, and who's Flair? Who's, bringing Backlund or some weird shit like that?
Oh, you don't want to bring in Backlund.
Who would have been like an older
Billy Graham?
I
don't know.
Superstar Billy Graham?
I don't know.
That's cool. I like that. What a weird evolution that is.
Hey, I know Macho Man left in 94. Bring him back in 96.
Dude, listen. What if, okay, I don't know about the Flair role. Flair's Triple H. Triple H is Orton. The Rock is Batista.
That makes a lot of sense.
What a weird evolution.
That would make a lot of sense.
We just need to know who the old timer is going to be.
You could have Flair because he started wrestling in the mid 70s. You could have Flair fill the Flair and Triple H roles.
So just like
make it
a
three-man faction.
Yeah, you could do that. Or you bring in Arn, if you want to sort of make it,
you could do
Arn. like a faux horseman thing,
Yeah, you could. Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy, dude. That is crazy. Horseman, huh? Yeah, the faux horseman. That's what they'd call it. Oh, that's good. I like that.
David Mitchell Baker asks, what if Stephanie didn't hear Cena rapping on the bus?
Bro,
what if we never got, as he tells it, he would have been fired.
He would have been
as
fired.
John Cena tells it. Yeah.
Yeah. He'd have been doing Skinamax or something. I don't know.
Oh, John Cena on Red Shoe Diaries?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know what his career would have been. Like a motivational speaker or I don't know what he would have done. Go to maybe TNA. TNA probably would have taken him.
TNA, yeah.
And then make his way back to... Because I don't know, because I've seen the Cena stuff, but Cena started rapping, they did the Halloween thing, and then he became the Doctor of Thugonomics. But to go from I'm rapping as Vanilla Ice to I'm wearing hip hop attire and rapping stuff, was the Doctor of Thugonomics stuff, do you recall, was that primarily a Cena creation?
I believe so.
Because if it was just him being who he wanted to be, I feel like it's probably a Cena creation. If that was the case, Dr. Thugonomics would have been there in TNA.
Absolutely.
And he probably would have been wildly over, and maybe WWF would have scooped him back. WWE would have scooped him back up. So maybe it would have just been a slightly different road, but he would have been there by 2005. And
he would have been the prototype of leaving WWE, reinventing yourself and going back.
Oh, he'd be the first Drew Galloway before Drew Galloway did it. Yeah, that could be. Look at this one. Atomic Sunrise says, what if Mankind couldn't continue the match after going off of top of Hell in a Cell? Would he still have the career he had? So is the assumption he wouldn't have been able to wrestle after that at all?
Or just not finish the match?
Or just not finish. I think once he went over the top, nothing else was necessary. I think the legend was set when he went over the top. Going back up and accidentally crashing down, that's a crazy cherry on top. But I think going over the top, that's enough.
Yeah, going off the top of the cage. Yeah, that's the defining moment of that match. I know people talk about him going through accidentally and getting the chair in the face.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the clip of video that always gets run is him getting thrown off the top by Undertaker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and yeah, on Impact, if he was too busted up and couldn't continue, the legend of Mankind is there. It's written.
It's set.
You know, him getting back up and getting back in the match, it advances it a little bit, but at that point, getting thrown off the top. I mean, I feel like as long as Mick Foley could have walked, he would have got back in that ring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't think anything else. Yeah. I don't think anything short of him not be able to walk was going to keep him out of finishing that match.
Yeah, I agree.
The trippy one, Jacob Zimmerman asked, what if we got Shawn Michaels versus Eddie Guerrero at WrestleMania 21?
I think it probably would have gone down the same way that the Angle HBK one did, a classic. Everybody, going crazy for it, loving that, and then people would be wondering, I wonder what would have happened if we got HBK versus Kurt Angle instead.
Yeah.
But it just would have been, just a classic match. Just a really great match.
Yeah.
Maybe it would have gotten that 5-star treatment instead of what they got, which is like 4 3/4.
4.5, 4 3/4. Yeah.
What if Roman Reigns? This is from Zoe851. What if Roman Reigns stuck with football? Who would be the forefront of the WWE main event scene? Have been featured for the last decade. Who would be in that Roman spot?
So what if it was Chris Hero in the Roman spot in the Shield?
Mm-hmm.
Cassius Ohno.
I love Cassius Ohno. I love Chris Hero.
Oh, great.
I don't think Vince McMahon would
It'd be Seth
run with
Rollins.
him as...
It'd be Seth.
Probably. I'm trying to think of a different... Do you think they would have maybe tried to embrace Dean Ambrose more?
They had every opportunity to embrace... Or Vince had every opportunity to embrace Dean Ambrose and insisted on Dean Ambrose being a very specific thing that Jonathan Good just didn't want to do.
But he didn't necessarily have the motivation to, because Roman was such a thing.
Yeah.
You don't think that, because there's a bunch of I put Seth in there as maybe slightly ahead of names like AJ Styles, Kevin Owens, Dean Ambrose. They're all sort of that same mold. But none of them, even Seth, I think, isn't the Hollywood look that Roman Reigns has. And you can tell that's why Vince pushed this guy, because he's got that next level it factor.
We all know the answer is Rick Boogs.
Rick Boo! Poor Rick. He said as soon as Vince McMahon got fired,
writing was on the wall for Rick Boogs.
I was done. Anyways, let us know your best Rick Boogs what ifs in the comments below. Maybe we'll do another one of these things exclusively about Rick Boogs what ifs. Let us know who would have been the Ric Flair in Ric Flair's Evolution, because that's my favorite fantasy book from you. That was great. Hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up, and the like button, all that kind of stuff. We'll see you around.
Goodbye.
Help support Friendo Club by going to patreon.com/Steven Larson or clicking join at youtube.com/Steven Larson. Access to bonus episodes, question threads for the Going In Raw podcast, and entry to our monthly wrestling predictions challenges. Join the Friendo Club today.